Well, Halloween is soon upon us and all sorts of ghoulish creatures will start to appear. But when you think of Japanese ghosts or monsters, what do you think of? For most people, the terrifying apparitions from the movies Ring and Ju-on first come to mind. And in fact, the vast majority of Japanese horror films and books and such deal largely with some sort of ghosts. But there are other forms of supernatural creatures that have permeated Japanese society over the ages. These are yokai, roughly translated as bewitching apparitions or strange creatures, and they are supernatural beings deeply rooted in Japanese folklore and mythology. They are certainly different than the Western idea of monsters, and they often give a glimpse into the Japanese ideas of the mysterious and supernatural. I recently went on a trip to a small port town in Japan called Sakaiminato, in Tottori Prefecture. This town is famous for being the birthplace of one of Japan's most notable manga, which are Japanese comic books, artists, Mizuki Shigeru, or Shigeru Mizuki in English form. He was very famous for his many yokai manga, especially Gegege no Kitaro, in which he has depicted these mysterious Japanese creatures of folklore. A quick background on the artist. Mizuki Shigeru, born Mura Shigeru in 1922, was born in Osaka but grew up in Tottori, and after World War II lived in Tokyo until his death. From an early age he displayed a particular talent for art and even had an exhibition while he was in elementary school. At this time he developed an interest in the supernatural, something that was fueled by listening to ghost stories told by a local woman whom he nicknamed Nonoba. However, his artistic career was cut short by the war when he was drafted and sent to Papua New Guinea. He experienced terrible things there and even lost an arm in an Allied air raid. These experiences would greatly influence his later work. He returned to Japan after the war a changed man. He worked a variety of jobs until he published his first work, Rocket Man. He published numerous works afterwards, both dealing with the military and with yokai. Throughout most of his life, Mizuki's work was relatively unknown outside of Japan due to not having been translated. This changed in the 2010s when translations in several European languages of his Showa, Kitaro, Nonoba, and Akuma-kun series began to appear, and that of his Gekika, or manga artist peers, among Westerners. So, why travel all the way to Tottori to see this man's hometown? Because not only is there an excellent museum there about yokai and his artwork, but there's also an 800-meter-long road known as Mizuki Shigeru Road, with over 170 bronze statues of his versions of yokai monsters. If you're interested in yokai, this is the place to visit. Let's explore this street and some of the yokai you will find. First on our list is the creature Hyotoku, who originally comes from the Tohoku region of northern Japan. There are a couple of different origin stories, but the most familiar one tells of an old man that rescued a young man with an ugly face. The young man, with his ugly pointed mouth, was very skillful starting fires in the kitchen. While the young man stayed with the family, they flourished, but the old woman of the house gradually began to despise him and kicked him out of the house. When this happened, the family fell quickly into decline. As such, legends say that if you display an ugly mask near the stove or hearth, the family will prosper. You will also often see people wearing such masks at dances and festivals. Next, we have Yanari, which is a paranormal phenomenon where a house or furniture would start shaking for no reason. This one is from Kyoto Prefecture, but there are reports of such from all over Japan. One tale of these creatures is from the Edo period in Japanese history, which was from around 1600 to 1870. A group of ronin, or masterless samurai, were staying in a house that was rumored to be haunted to test their bravery. Late in the night, the whole house started shaking, but nothing was moving outside. They consulted a monk who stayed the next night with them in the house. When the house started again shaking, the monk thrust a knife into a tatami mat and the shaking suddenly stopped. They found blood coming from the cut and learned from the neighbors that a man who lived in the house had previously killed a ravaging bear. The man was possessed by the spirit of the bear and continued to wander around the house and cause many strange things to happen. This next yokai is kind of cute. It's thought to have originated in the Tohoku region of Japan and is called kuraboko. They're often depicted as being as tall as a child, with hair all over their body, or have hair long enough to cover their entire bodies. It is said that although they may make noises such as spinning wheels or music inside warehouses, they rarely appear and don't do anything particularly bad. But it is believed that if the kuraboko disappear from a family's warehouse, the family's fortunes will be affected. And here we move on to nekomata, a kind of cat demon, with early descriptions coming from Niigata Prefecture. These demons are said to resemble extremely large cats, sometimes over a meter tall, and have been said to both seduce and eat people. This character is called Seto Taisho, and he is depicted wearing a suit of armor made from a mishmash of various Chinaware items. Although this seems to be a common kind of yokai, they don't seem to have any kind of background in actual folklore. Instead, they are from the story of a battle between different kinds of Chinaware in ancient times for relevance in society. This character seems to be a monster that greatly contributed to the revival of Chinaware in general in Japan. This nasty creature is called Akaname, and it hails from the Chubu region of central Japan. These appear at night when no one is around to lick and eat the dirt that accumulates in bathtubs and baths. This dirt also includes the dead skin that peels off of humans, as well as mold and water stains that accumulate in the bathroom. It is said it uses its long tongue to eat, and while disgusting, they don't appear to physically hurt people. To prevent them from coming, you should clean the bathtub and prevent it from accumulating grime. The next creature is said to be one of the most well-known of Japanese monsters. It's called Kasabake, and it's an umbrella yokai. It is commonly depicted as an umbrella with one eye jumping up and down on one leg. And although it is a very famous yokai, it is said that there are almost no specific folklore left that the origins can be traced to. It appears instead in many pieces of art and fictional stories. Some find them charming more than scary, as they stick out their tongues and laugh with one eye. Futakuchi Onna is a female yokai whose story dates back to the Edo period in Japan. This monster comes from the story of a woman who killed her stepchild by starving her. In a freak accident, her husband hit her in the back of the head with an axe, with the wound becoming a second mouth at the back of her head. The ends of her hair also turned into snakes and act as chopsticks to funnel food into this second mouth. If you don't feed her, she will scream and torment you. These yokai are called bakezori, and take the disguise of old and carelessly discarded zori sandals that begin to sing at night. It's believed that they appear in folk tales that include the lesson not to waste footwear. Chochin Kozo is a monster that has been passed down from Miyagi Prefecture. The creature is a yokai in the form of a boy, around 12 or 13 years old, with a bright red face and holding a lantern in his hand. It is said to appear on drizzly nights in places where people have been senselessly killed. It passes people walking or stops in front of them and looks at them. It does not cause any particular harm to humans, but it is spooky and it disappears after a while. This scary yokai is called Ohaguro Bettari, and it's a monster in the form of a woman with no eyes or nose, only a large mouth with blackened teeth. It's said she calls out to men while hiding her face with her head down. When they engage her, she surprises them with a terrible grin. This is Okamuro, and it apparently has its roots from Tokushima Prefecture and Niigata Prefecture. It is said to scare humans by suddenly showing its gigantic face. A classic tale is when a person hears a noise outside the house and opens a shoji screen to see what's there. The noise again appears, and a ghost with a giant head surprises them. It is said that its sole purpose is to frighten people, and it does not cause any direct harm to humans. Hitotsume Kozo is a Japanese monster that takes the form of a child with a shaved head and only one eye in the middle of its forehead. Generally speaking, they don't cause any harm, and they are included in the relatively harmless category of yokai, appearing out of the blue and simply surprising people for fun. Nupeppo is a yokai that appears in Edo period yokai picture scrolls. It is depicted as a single lump of flesh with indistinguishable wrinkles on its face and body. It appears in the middle of the night and smells vaguely like a corpse. It is said to suck the fat of the dead, and that definitely can't be too pleasant. There are also tales of it first disguising itself as a human, approaching passerbys and having a friendly conversation. When the other person is caught off guard, it reveals its true identity, scaring the human. Kuchisake Onna is a modern yokai based on an urban legend that was spread in Japan from spring to summer of 1979. The tale goes that a young woman wearing a mask completely covering her face asks a child on his way home from school, "Do I look pretty?" When she replies, "Yes, you're beautiful," she takes off her mask, showing her mouth slit open from ear to ear with long, sharp teeth. She asks again, "Am I still pretty?" When the girl replies no, she is slashed to death with a knife or scissors. This urban legend caused great fear among elementary and junior high school students across the country at that time. It caused police cars to be dispatched in various cities and mass school closures in other areas. It developed into a state of panic that engulfed Japan for a short time period. This yokai comes from Miyagi Prefecture, and it's called Tankorori. It is said to be a monster that appears in the form of an old persimmon tree and appears when the persimmon fruit is left unpicked. Some say it looks like a monk, but it is the incarnation of the persimmon spirit. It is also said that it appears as a red-faced persimmon man and knocks on the shutters of homes at night. Especially in Miyagi, there are many stories where persimmons can transform into humans. One strange story involves a woman who sees persimmons growing in a garden and wants to eat them. Suddenly, a large man with a bright red face appears in the middle of the night and asks her to pick his butt and lick it. She did as she was told, and it tasted like sweet persimmon. When she looked at the persimmon tree the next morning, there were marks on the fruit where it had been gouged by a finger. Maybe her finger. This creature is Wan Yudo. It takes the form of a man's face in the center of the wheel of an ox cart engulfed in flames. It is said that a long time ago in Kyoto, this creature with a terrifying face would drive from the downtown core to the mountains, and those who saw it would lose their souls. As such, there is a tradition in Kyoto for a piece of paper with a special spell on it to be posted on front doors, making this yokai unable to approach it. Nurari-hyon is a Japanese monster whose appearance is depicted in many ancient picture scrolls. It is described as an old man with a distinctive shape and bald head, and is depicted wearing either a kimono or a robe. At first glance, it looks pretty innocuous, but in the evening it comes out of nowhere and enters houses without permission, drinks tea, and sometimes smokes cigarettes in the housekeeper's room and relaxes. Ashinaga Tenaga is a monster that has been passed down in both Chinese and Japanese folklore. It is not just one type of yokai, but a general term for two types of long-legged people. As their name suggests, their legs and hands are extremely long compared to their body size. When fishing at sea, it is said that one person with long feet and one person with long hands work together to catch the fish. It is also said that when these yokai appear, the weather will always change. Nurikabe is a type of yokai that is from northern Kyushu. It is said to be a monster that acts like an invisible wall and blocks people from walking on the streets at night. Even if you try to pass through the wall continues to the left or right, and you can't move around it. Kicking it away or brushing away the upper part won't do anything. But if you use a stick to sweep the lower part, the wall will disappear. Since this original folklore is limited to a few regions, it was once a relatively unknown yokai, but it suddenly became famous through its role in Mizuki's Gegege no Kitaro series. Namikozo is a monster that has been passed down throughout western Shizuoka Prefecture. Its story is that once upon a time, there was a child the size of a thumb who called out to a boy who was working in the fields. "Help me." The child had left the sea to escape some heavy rain, but was now unable to return to it, so he asked for help. "Please." The boy rescued the child and brought him back to the sea. Later, when the boy's crops were in trouble due to drought, the child he had helped appeared and helped make it rain as a token of his gratitude. This fearsome creature is Ushioni, and it's a monster that has been passed down from western Japan. It is said to mainly appear on the coastal areas and attack people walking on the beach. There are legends from various places, and most of them are said to have extremely cruel and ferocious personalities. They are tenacious and like to spit poison and eat people alive. Umibozu is a monster that appears on the seas all over the country. It is said to appear often at night, when the previously calm sea surface suddenly swells and a black, shaved-headed giant appears and destroys ships. Most of them range in size from several meters to several tens of meters, though they can be smaller as well. Even if the Umibozu did no damage, its appearance was a sign of bad things to come. Neko Musume is another monster that appears in Mizuki's manga Gegege no Kitaro. It is the girlfriend of the main character Kitaro. She is a half yokai born between a human and a cat-like monster. Its weapons are sharp claws and fangs, and it has a jumping ability comparable to that of a cat. When it sees its favorite meal of mice or fish, its eyes immediately bulge. It bares its fangs and it transforms into a terrifying figure. Tsuchi Korobi is a type of Japanese monster from Tottori Prefecture, and it's said to be a snake that resembles a hammer. It is said to roll at the feet of people walking on mountain trails and bite them. It is about 30 centimeters in diameter and 90 centimeters long, and it likes to chase people while rolling on the ground like a barrel. Sometimes it's harmful, and other times it's not. Some also believe that it is a god that protects travelers by chasing them down the safest trails. Yamaji is said to be a mountain demon. It is approximately 90 to 120 centimeters tall and looks like an old man with one eye and one leg, and was said to be wearing something like a cloak. It has short gray hair all over its body, and its eyes are large and shiny, and it has strong teeth that can easily crush the bones of wild boars and monkeys. So it's said that hunters tried to tame them and use them to drive away wolves. Although they sometimes appear on roads where people come and go, they are not usually seen by humans. They instead are known to leave behind one footprint every 6 or 7 feet that is found. It is also said that its voice is extremely loud and its screams sometimes echo throughout the mountains, shaking the heavens and earth, causing leaves to fall from trees and even nearby trees and rocks to move. There are tales that some people even died because their eardrums were ruptured by its loud voice. It is said that when a kappa goes into the mountains in autumn, he becomes a yamawaro, or a mountain child. Kappa are one of the most well-known types of yokai in Japan. They were a frightening water creature that looked like turtles, and they were long known for pulling children underwater and drowning them. Tales of these creatures were often used to teach Japanese children to be careful when swimming in rivers and ponds. In the spring, when they descend the mountain and begin their underwater life again, they return to being kappas. They have different names as their nature and physical characteristics also are different. It is said that if you witness this change, you will be cursed and become ill. Tales tell of them enjoying sumo wrestling and playing pranks on cows and horses. It is also said that there were times when they would enter people's houses without permission and take a bath. The bathtubs where mountain children and others bathed were dirty with oil floating in them and were very smelly. Shunobon is a Japanese monster that surprises people with its frightening face, and it is said that if you meet it, your soul will be taken. One popular tale tells of a samurai walking alone on a road when someone approaches him from behind. The samurai mentions, "They say there are monsters around here," and the creature replied, "This is what the monster looks like," showing his face, which was dark red and had a horn on his forehead. His hair was like needles, and his mouth and ears were cut. It also became well known after appearing regularly in the anime version of Gegege no Kitaro. Gashadokuro is a spooky being that is made up of the skeletons and grudges of the unburied dead. Those killed in battle and those who died in the fields gather together to form a giant skeleton. It is said that it wanders around in the middle of the night, making a crackling sound, and when it finds a living person, it attacks, crushes it, and eats it. Samuto no Baba is an old woman who appears on windy days in Iwate Prefecture. It comes from the story of a young daughter who suddenly disappeared, only to return 30 years later looking like a mountain maiden. This is one of the most well-known legends in Japan. Miyage Nyudo is a mysterious creature that appears on the streets at night. When climbing a hill in the middle of the night, a small monk-like figure will appear in front of you, and when you look up, it will grow taller and taller. The person looking at it will then fall backwards in surprise. Generally harmless, some versions say that it also sometimes steals food and money from travelers. Yamawaro is a yokai of a giant man, type of mountain man, that has been passed down in Nagano Prefecture. They live deep in the mountains and catch and eat shrimp and crabs. Sometimes they imitate humans and roast their food over a fire. It is said that if people damage a mountain where these exist, they will become ill. Konoha Tengu are yokai that look like a large bird with wings similar to a kite and a wingspan of about 1.8 meters. Some say it also has a human-like face and limbs, as well as a beak and tail feathers. It is said to immediately flee when it senses the presence of humans, so it's not too dangerous. This is the yokai Abura Sumashi. It is described as a monster with a sullen face wearing a full-body cloak. Carrying a bottle of oil, it suddenly appears on mountain passes and surprises passerbys. It is said to be the ghost of a criminal who stole oil. This creature also appears in Gegege no Kitaro. Konaki Jiji is one of the yokai companions of Kitaro, again one of the main characters of Mizuki's manga Gegege no Kitaro. Officially, these creatures are said to be from Tokushima Prefecture. It is a monster wearing a haberdash and a hat, with a baby-like face and an old man's beard. If you hug it, you will gradually increase in weight until you turn into stone, making you unable to move. In actual folklore, it is a really terrifying yokai that can kill people with this technique. But in Mizuki's stories, it plays an active role as a good yokai, which acts as the main character's protector. Yuki-onna is a white-faced female monster that appears mainly on snowy nights in areas with heavy snowfall. There are different versions of the creature, but they always wear white clothes that represent death, and blow cold breath onto men to freeze them to death, or suck out their spirit and kill them. This strange beast is Iju. It's a mysterious creature that is said to have appeared in Niigata Prefecture during the Edo period. It is described as like a monkey, but not like a monkey. One tale tells of a man who was in a hurry, eating lunch when a strange beast came. The beast asked for food, so the man gave some to him. When the man was about to continue his journey and carry a large load on his back, the beast easily slung the load over its shoulder and started walking in front of the man. When the beast was near its destination, it unloaded its cargo and ran back up the mountain. Umin Yobo is a female monster with scales and webbed feet from the Izumo region of Shimane Prefecture. Although they live in the sea, they can survive on land for a few days, and some are said to speak human languages. There are theories that it is the incarnation of a woman who is drowned at sea, and it is ferocious and it eats people. This is the Suigo, or water tiger yokai. It's like a kappa and lived in rivers and the ocean. They are said to once a year drag people into the water to drink their blood. They often also play pranks on people by knocking on doors late at night, and are said to even sometimes possess people. In order to repel these yokai, people often hang sickles over their doors. This is Hari Onago, or the Needle Woman, and she is from southern Ehime Prefecture. She is described as a monster that takes the form of a beautiful woman and captures men with hooks attached to the tips of her hair and takes them away. It is said that she frequently appears on the street at night and would smile at men. Those that smiled back would be chased and captured with her hair. Even the largest of men would be unable to escape and would be taken away somewhere. Kenmon seem to be related again to the previously mentioned kappa. The most ancient references portrayed them as being beneficial and harmless, loving sumo wrestling, and challenging whomever they meet to a match. Though this changed as time passed, and they later are referred to as dangerous and to be avoided. If you are cursed by Kenmon, your eyes will become diseased. Or you may even die. They sometimes even kidnap children and extract their souls. Hitorima is a mysterious creature that comes from Ishikawa Prefecture. It is said that when people pass through a particular place at night with lit lanterns, the light from the lanterns becomes dimmer, as if being sucked out. And when they finish passing through, the lanterns become bright again. These fire-taker demons are depicted as humans with the upper half of their bodies covered in flames and the lower half of their bodies wearing kimono. So, these have been only about a third of the yokai sculptures represented on the Mizuki Shigeru Road. If you're into yokai, I highly recommend making the journey here on your trip to Japan. There's also lots of other interesting things to see in the area, and plenty of places to take photos and buy souvenirs. You should definitely check out the museum as well, where the artist's fanciful world is introduced through a range of displays and movies. Visitors can take a self-guided audio tour of the exhibits by listening to a detailed explanation in 5 different languages: Japanese, English, Korean, Chinese, and Russian. Or by tuning in to the in-house Wi-Fi service for smartphones. But make sure the museum is open by checking online first. I'll leave a link in the comments section below. Here's a cool mural showing off a lot of Mizuki's yokai, and if you're lucky enough, you might just see a yokai for yourself. Well, what do you think? What's scarier, Japanese yokai and ghosts, or the more famous creatures of Western horror fiction and movies? Let us know in the comments below, as well as what's the scariest monster for you. And happy Halloween! Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting tidbits from Japan.